Ben,
Yes.
Tippers, like I used to call you, and I know everyone does, but I think we go way back, and it's always a pleasure catching up with Ben, given his background and knowledge within the sales niche. I think Ben and I go way back when we worked together in an organization. I've been following his career as a recruiter. I've recruited personally for Ben, and I think in terms of Ben's knowledge within sales as a function, I've always been quite inspired. I just love the fact that he's always on top of every new sales book, every new sales process, and he's just a wealth of knowledge every time you talk to him. So thank you, Ben, for being here with us today. Really appreciate it.
So excited to be here. Anytime I get a chance to hang out and chat with you, Raina, it is always a pleasure.
Because we talk about cooking and all sorts of stuff as well. So
Exactly.
it's always fun.
Exactly.
But Ben, I think I've always followed your career trajectory, and I've just loved the fact that you've been a very strong and successful sales professional, but you've also been a great sales leader. You worked with numerous sales professionals throughout your career, and everyone that I've spoken to and recruited for your teams and seen you grow into sales leadership roles and then director roles, and it's just fantastic. And I think it purely comes from your true grit to the profession. And now being in your current role, I think if you could just share with our following a little bit about why you do what you do, a little bit about the current organization you're in, and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah, look, I've been in the world of sales for a very long time. I started out as a commission-only, door-to-door shopping centre type sales guy on the main streets of Melbourne many years ago, about 19 at this point. I was 19 years old at the time, and actually in that world, if you do particularly well, they very quickly turn you into a leader of people. And so I was 19 years old, selling commission only, working my butt off, and all of a sudden had a team of 3 and then 4 and then 5 and then 6 people, and having to onboard. I don't know if you know very much about the world of commission only door-to-door sales, but they turn over a lot of people. So you're constantly like hiring, training, onboarding, upskilling, mentoring, from 19 years old. And so that was kind of my entry point into the world of sales and sales leadership. And, over the years, I've worked with a lot of teams in a lot of places. I think did a count recently. I've hired people in 31 countries now, which, every one of those has their own individual little challenges and lessons to be learned. But after years and years and years of always talking about the importance of how you go about hiring people and the sorts of skills you look for, and how important onboarding is, and how important training and coaching and talking about these things all the time. The good thing is now I work for a company called Trust the Process as the Chief Growth Officer over there. We do a whole bunch of things, but primarily we are an offshoring company. So we help people hire people, particularly into sales, marketing, and service roles. And so all that time I've spent talking about these things for all these years, now I can actually put it into practice and help our clients to find the best salespeople, the best marketing people, the best service people, and make sure that they have a great start in their organization and can ultimately be successful, so that they can then use those people to grow their own businesses.
I must say, I do love the name Trust the Process.
There's positives and negatives to it. We love it too, because we are very process driven. The founders of Trust the Process spent a decade plus as officers in the Australian Army, logistics officers, right? Which is all about process and structure and making sure the right people have the right information and the right resources at the right place at the right time. And so we are very process driven. There are downsides to it. There is a major thing in the US in relation to trust the process, which is a basketball related term specifically relating to the Philadelphia 76ers. So if you want to win branded search, so SEO, for the term trust the process, you might have to spend somewhere in the vicinity of $10 million to win that particular search. And so there's some downsides to the name as well from a marketing perspective, but we love it too.
Fantastic. So Ben, I think, I love what you guys are doing in your space. I mean, it's a very competitive space. And how are you finding it? I mean, there's a lot of noise around what's happening in 2023. I mean, I can share some market update here with you, but today's all about getting some insights from you, right? So it's quite competitive, the space you're in. And
yep.
So tell us a little bit about why you guys do it differently, and why do you think it's so important for businesses to be aware of trust the process, or any business in that space, as a solution in the current market?
Yeah, I think that's it's a great question, and it's for many it's a very difficult question to answer, particularly in what a lot of people might consider to be a fairly commoditized market. The world of staff leasing, outsourcing, offshoring, all that sort of stuff. For me, ultimately, differentiation has to be important and matter to the client. I think a lot of what happens in a lot of industries, but particularly in ours, is that the differentiation is ultimately no difference. And so I don't want to, talk about all of the ways that we kind of do things as a staff leasing offshoring business. But what I would really say is that in this particular world, particularly if you're an SME trying to hire people offshore, what you ultimately want is, and this is a very old saying, but you ultimately want somebody who's big enough to know better, right? They've been through some of the challenges of growth and expansion and all those sorts of things, but small enough to care. And so trust the process, we really do kind of sit right in that sweet spot where we have enough volume and enough size in terms of our clients and our number of team members offshore that we've learned a lot of the lessons, but small enough that our clients, for the most part, have mine or one of our founders' mobile numbers. And if they need help with something, some insight into something, they're like, oh, I can't figure out why this particular sales process isn't working. They've got access to the right people to be able to help them. And I think that's important. I think, look, as a business, we are a very people-focused business. One of our founders is particularly good with words, with coming up with good phrases. He said to me the other day, business is a fundamentally human experience based on connection and relationships. And when he said that to me, it got me thinking about this whole, the world we live in, which is pretty fundamentally digital. And probably, you and I worked together 13, 14 years ago, something like that, for the first time. We've obviously done a lot of things together over the years, but that was the first time we worked together. Like, I would definitely say that the world of business is less connected personally today than it was 13, 14 years ago. And I don't think that it has to be. And so as an offshoring provider, as an outsourcing business, ultimately our goal is to be able to help people to take advantage of a modern digital strategy. We help people implement things like CRM systems. We're HubSpot agency partners, as an example. But we think that all of these things should be ways to augment and improve that human-to-human, person-to-person relationship, and improve those connections. Because at the end of the day, we don't just want to do business for the sake of making money. We want to enjoy what we do, and what makes us enjoy what we do is the people that we get to do it with. And for the most part, that's our clients and our partners. And so, it's not just about ticking boxes and sending emails and hoping everyone kind of keeps working with us, you know, through automations and whatnot. We want to have a fundamentally human-to-human connected business and approach to how we do things, which is not a huge differentiator in terms of a product, but I believe it is a fundamentally different approach in our industry in terms of, you know, approach rather than product and service.
And Ben, do you think with everything happening in the market at the moment, there's been a massive snowball effect from all the tech layoffs at the beginning of the year. There's a lot of noise around a possible recession, although the feeling quite positive that it's not going to really reach Australia. Businesses, we're finding in the sales recruitment space that a lot of roles are being held or businesses are taking a lot higher. It's definitely an employer market as opposed to a candidate market. We're seeing a very different shift to the market that we were in last year, right? Where scraping the bottom of the barrel to find the talent. Today we're that we're speaking to such good sales professionals out there on a daily basis. I mean, I just feel businesses and tech startups and companies just don't, investors have pulled out. There's been such a, massive inflation. There's just a lot happening. It's volatile. I mean, I can see a massive gap there in the market. I mean, for you guys and what you, in terms of value to what you could bring. And I think, for a lot of companies that we've spoken to over the years that are in that tech startup space, I mean, this is a prime example of where you could be looking at other options like what you have. And so is this an optimum time for your business where you guys have been extremely busy because businesses have decided now that there is a better, more cost-effective and efficient way to keep, the wheels churning, and let's look at other options? I mean, how are you guys finding the market?
I think all of those things that you said there are very true, right? There's definitely some hesitance in the market. People are definitely feeling the pinch, all the layoffs, all those sorts of things. It's definitely much more back into an employer market than a employee market, like you said. Depending on the industry.
Then businesses are also correcting themselves because last year there was a massive influx of roles. Salaries were inflated, and they've just realized that they've paid X amount for a skill set that they don't have.
And A money for C players. It's been going on for 2 or 3 years, and so many businesses have ultimately paid the price for it. And I honestly believe that's where maybe a larger portion of layoffs occurred, because there was a realization of this. Maybe more people got laid off than otherwise would have, because they were paying huge money to look, and I'm going to talk specifically here about sales. Huge, crazy market resetting money just over and over and over again to people that honestly weren't very good salespeople. And so they didn't get the results, but those companies, those tech companies in particular, managed to hit all of their hiring targets, right? And it totally threw the market out for a period of time. People could just get paid whatever they wanted to get paid. I think that's definitely switched back the other way, but there are still candidates out there that are expecting those same kinds of numbers in a market where they're just never going to get them. And people feeling like they're having to go backwards, and they're starting in new jobs because they need the money, but they're not excited about it because they feel like they've taken a step backwards. But, some very irresponsible hiring happened over the last 3 years, and it's had a pretty big impact for sure.
I think the market's correcting itself.
For sure.
And that's partially what we're seeing when we're talking to candidates out there at the moment.
Yep.
So yes, I agree with everything you say.
What I'd like to understand is obviously from, your perspective, sitting in that whole growth revenue seat where you're focused on driving revenue for your current business. What are you seeing? I mean, are you seeing that the current market has increased needs for what you guys provide as a solution?
Yes and no, right? So we have had some challenges just like everybody else over the last 6 months, particularly the Australian market. It was probably a little bit earlier than that for the US and some other places, but particularly for the Australian market, lots of people feeling the pinch. We work with SMEs predominantly. When you're in a small to medium-sized organisation, the people that are pulling the purse strings and managing the budgets, for the most part, have mortgages and things like that. Everybody's feeling this stuff, and we've certainly seen a little bit more challenge in the last 6 months.